Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, people watching at home. Another great live stream ahead of us. And again, this time we are joined by Sharon and Maggie from Lewes FC. Welcome, ladies. How are we doing?
Thank you.
Yeah, not bad. Just check. You want to say Lewes.
I knew I was going to put that name. I knew it.
Everyone does it, but Lewes FC is the worst name possible for a football club. So, yeah.
But, okay, Lewes. Let me press that again. Lewes, yeah, like the person.
Yeah.
Right, Lewes.
Yeah. Don't worry, everyone does it. Everyone does it.
Okay, Lewes FC. But anyway, aside from that, how are you guys doing?
A bit frazzled. Yeah, we're just prepping to have the fans back on Sunday. It's full steam ahead, but yeah, it's pretty exhausting. Just trying to make sure we can carry everything off safely, but also make sure that it's as normal as an experience for fans as it possibly can be, even though it's not normal at all. So yeah, it's really tricky just trying to get everything in a row, and we don't have much time. It's the game's in 3 days, so let's go.
Literally. I mean, what's the sort of things you've been doing? Like you mentioned offline, you've been like doing stuff to the seats and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we're just trying to make it as safe as possible for fans. So at Lewes, we've got a mix of seated and standing in the ground. So with the seated area, our teams, the home and away team now, their technical area, they're not allowed to be in the bench by the side of the pitch. They have to be in the stand. So that wipes out about a third of our seats seated under cover. And then the rest of the seats, we literally have to go around putting stickers on them to say, yes, you can sit here. No, you can't sit there. And then with the standing area, obviously you can't just put stickers down on places. So we're drawing red bubbles for people to stand in so that they know that when they stand in that bubble, they're socially distanced from everyone around them. So it's like we've had to think through every single thing to make sure it's safe. But, there's other things like the latest government guidelines mean that we're not allowed to encourage people to sing or shout. And normally that's like a big thing at the dripping pan at our ground. Like it's quite boisterous and it's quite loud. We usually have a band. The bands can't play because it's a wind instrument. So they can't have, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So we're trying to think creatively and think, outside the box a little bit. So on Sunday, we'll be asking fans to come in and bring a pan to the dripping pan. And then we're encouraging people to be banging the pans,
okay,
to avoid shouting and screaming and chanting. So yeah, we're just trying to think through every single thing and trying to make it safe, but also fun and normal, I guess. Yeah.
I thought he was going to encourage them to hum or something like that.
No, I was actually down there yesterday with a saucepan and a wooden spoon, just with a mask on because everyone has to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Just to see like what it would feel like to be banging the pan and the wooden spoon instead of chanting, because it just sounds really muffled when you chant through a mask. So we play with our words of the dripping pan. We'll bring our pan to the pan, hashtag make a safe noise. So yeah.
Make a safe noise, okay. That's the new one. I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. This whole year has been a write-off for me personally, but I don't know how football clubs are managing this whole process. I mean, it's going to be difficult, right?
Yeah, it's really tough. Like financially, obviously, it's a massive struggle. Our men's team and our women's team are classed in different categories according to the FA and the government. So our women's team are elite, so they've been playing throughout the latest lockdown when the men's team had to stop. But because they are elite, there were different rules in place. So we couldn't have fans, just like in the Premier League, there was no fans. But on the men's side, they were allowed fans. So in some ways, we were relying on the men's team generating cash on the gate and in the shop and in the bar and stuff to support the women's side. And now we're in a position where suddenly the women are allowed fans back in, and the men at the moment we don't think are going to be able to play for the foreseeable. So now we're going to be generating the cash. It's a very equally balanced relationship here, but we could do with both of them being able to have fans back, and it's tricky financially for all clubs. It's a massive challenge.
We're a real example of how strange the guidance is, because at the very same ground, sometimes we were allowed men, and sometimes we were allowed women's fans, with no difference in the spacing and the safety arrangements and the temperature checking and the kind of way that we've done one way only and all of that. But I mean, it's difficult for everyone. I suppose the authorities have to set these guidelines, and we have to have some boundaries. And so, yeah, now we can have crowds for our women, but not for our men. Previously, crowd for our men, but not for our women. Same space.
Same space. I mean, look, I don't envy you at all in your position at all. I mean, whilst you're both here, can you take me through like the history of the club? Because again, you're quite a unique club in the space of like, you know, you drive home with equality and you know, equal pay. So again, without me saying too much, can you just kind of go through the history of the club and you know what you stand for?
Well, I suppose the recent history, the club was on the brink of financial ruin back in 2010, and 6 people came in and turned it into a community-owned club, 100% fan-owned, so that you can buy a share in the football club for £40 a year. You get 1 vote with that share, and you can only have 1 share, so that it's really democratic. But you can vote in the directors of the club. So, like, I'm an elected director, and there are 11 of us altogether. And with that community ownership came a new agenda, in a way, like to create value for the community that owns the club, rather than just squeeze profits for shareholders. And so the directors actively look around for what value we can create. And it became very apparent back in 2017 that our women's team were brilliantly doing well, like shooting up the leagues there. And yet we were apportioning them less budget than the men's team. So there was a decision taken to split the revenues equally between the men's and women's teams. The campaign we ran with that was called Equality FC. And we became the first club in the world who pay our women the same as the men and value our women the same as the men. So this is a massive deal in terms of publicity and media attention. So we've had a bit of a whirl, really, but we since then we've quadrupled our women's gate figure, and our men's gate figure has risen too. And both teams have been promoted since the equality campaign. So we say that equality is a rising tide that lifts all our boats. And you know what? We're very, very passionate about it, and it's been brilliant in many ways for the club.
Awesome. I mean, Maggie, since the whole equality campaign, any other clubs that contacted and asked you how it's done and you know the stuff like that? Because you guys are pioneers.
Yeah. Actually, we do have a number of clubs that approach us and ask us questions, or individuals that are like, "Hey, I'd love to do this. How did you do it? Because I'd love my club back home to do it." But in general, the clubs tend to be overseas. They don't tend to be from England, and I wonder whether that's partly because, you know, naturally, ultimately it's a football game and we're competitors. So other clubs, that, you know, there's a thing where people don't really want to kind of ask for support or guidance. But it's so we'll have a fair number of, like, for example, we worked with a whole bunch of people that run women's football clubs in Australia quite recently, just at the beginning of lockdown, actually. So, you know, some of the people in there were from the Australian Football Association and a bunch of the other clubs there. So they were quite keen. I speak to quite a few Americans about different models and stuff. I mean, every country has a slightly different model. And I think that a lot of this just comes down to behavioral change and culture. And yeah, I think we get a little bit stuck, I think, on the equal pay issue. And actually what we're really talking about is equal value and equal treatment. So, you know, it's quite easy for some people to go, oh yeah, well, you know, a Premier League club can't pay its men and women the same. And I'm like, yeah, but you're kind of missing the point. It's more about, like, do you value them equally? Do you use the same training facilities? Do you have the same budget for travel? And those kinds of things. It's not what we want to move away from, is thinking that football clubs are by default men's football clubs and the women work around it. So for us, when we're trying to figure through the use of the ground or training facilities, it's not that the men go first and then the women are like, oh, can we have the the other slot then? Can we do that? That it's just a conversation, and then we figure it out. And sometimes it will be better for the men, and sometimes it'll be better for the women. And I think that that's something that everyone can do in grassroots clubs, is like, just stop a moment and think about how you make decisions. Is it that naturally you might even notice yourself, like, actually, yeah, we do schedule the men's first team and then the under 18 boys, then under 16 boys, and then we think about the women's first team, and then we think about the girls' teams. I think we naturally do that when we're thinking about referees, when we're thinking about training kit and like, or match day kit. It's kind of like the women get the hand-me-downs. The hand-me-downs and referees. Like, I've had so many bad referees as a player, because it's kind of like all the good referees are scheduled out here, and then like the women will get like the leftovers. I'm talking like mainly grassroots football. You know, it's kind of like it's just breaking that assumption that the kind of men go first and then the women will come in. Because one of the big challenges, sorry, and this is like going off a little bit, but one of the massive challenges is around venues. There is a massive surge in female participation in football, but there aren't the venues, there aren't the training facilities to catch up. And men naturally have had all the slots booked. They're in like these rolling contracts for years, right? So women's teams are trying to form, and they've got like 40, 50 women that want to play, but they've got half a pitch between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. on a Friday night. You know, that's the only slot that's available, because all the other slots are taken.
It's funny you say that, because I had Claire on from Dobres FC, and she said the same thing.
Yes.
It's about, you know, women's football was a slot obviously for 50 years, and during that time, obviously, men's teams have established their slots, and then now there's such a surge, like you said, of women's football. They're trying to get for these slots, and obviously they found a pitch now, but it was difficult in that sense just to find it. So yeah, it's interesting.
I think what we really find is that sexism has been normalised basically in football, and the fact that Lewes is sending out this equality message means that we're kind of uncovering this normalisation, and kind of making other people question a little bit. Hang on a second, how come our women don't play on the same pitch as the men? You know, and just asking, just highlighting some issues so that people will actually have, hopefully, the kind of conversations that we've been having. And I mean, I haven't been involved in football for very long. Only since the equality campaign I became interested. And really, as a result of the 50-year ban that you just mentioned on women's football, I had never played football at school. I thought it was a boys' game and then a men's game. I never even knew women played football until 3 years ago. So for me, like, I feel like in one way, I don't want to complain, but I've been unwelcome to football, right? Just as a result of my gender. So, and there are other women like that. So we've been talking to those women and getting them to come along. And also by doing that, they notice things as well that have been just the wallpaper of football for a long time. Like, how come you don't serve Prosecco at the bar? Why do you just serve beer? For example, just little examples.
An example, you know?
Like that. But these things are important when we're thinking about inclusion, you know, welcoming people. So, yeah, there's a lot to learn, and it is about valuing. Maggie's right, it's not just about pay, it's about these details as well, and about, you know, who does what, who's doing what when, and all the rest of it. So it's really interesting, actually, because I often see football as a little version of society, you know, like a little, you know, microcosm. So we feel like if we can change things in just at the dripping pan, in little Lewes, you know, then maybe we'll have an effect on the outside world.
Okay. No, I like that. Just be honest with me though, was there anyone that was kind of not with it, or was kind of took a while to get them on sides? Over you, both shaking your head like, yeah.
It's not easy, and like I think sometimes when we talk about it, we might make it sound like, oh guys, just do this and then everything's easy, but it is hard, and it's been really, really difficult, and certainly some fans were not really backing it at the beginning. They often tend to be like the slightly more vocal ones will be the ones that will be like, oh, they don't like it, or, you know, for me, for example, just silly small anecdotes, but like I started to hear, I was new to the club last year, and the the men got off to a bad start, and I heard some muttering in the terrace saying, you know, the men had lost a few games in a row, and I could hear people saying, oh, it's because of the women, it's because of equality. And then the women's team started to lose games, and then they stopped muttering about it. So it's just like little things like that where I feel like sometimes people look for excuses or reasons, or they want. There are some people I feel like who want it to fail, and like I'm mentioning that because it's vocal, and obviously you listen to your own fans and you can be quite hurt sometimes by that. But actually, what you don't hear is this massive groundswell of support for it, and like just the normalization in the town centre here in Lewes is like lots of people are really, really proud of the football club, even if they've not been to a game. They know what the club has done, and I think those little things. But it's difficult because it hasn't been done before, and then it feels people wrongly assume that equality means the men losing out, and I think that's the kind of thing we're trying to break down. We're trying to say no, this is a football club. It's a club, and we're all in it together, and like this is what we're trying to achieve. You should, naturally, you should want to support your women as well as your men, right?
Of course.
I think like we're trying to affect a big change in a way. In fact, it's a massive change. You know that by the fact that we're the first club in the world to do it. So we have to expect people aren't all going to be on board, and we have to think, well, what are we going to do about that? And I think it's been really interesting ride because we think more about what unites us, a football club, right? So we think about what unites us, what have we got in common, and we all want to win matches, and we all want to kind of do good for our community. So if we start with that in mind, when we have conversations about whether gender equality in football is a good thing or not, and we do have those conversations with people, we start with that common goal. We're all in this together. We're all part of Lewes FC. Where do we want to be in 5 years' time? And the very fact that we're having conversations about gender equality in the male bastion of football with a lot of men who wouldn't be having conversations about gender equality normally, believe you me, is brilliant, right? It's brilliant that we're having these little chats, and we're trying to have them in the spirit of kind of dialogue and activism rather than you're right and I'm wrong, Like let's not leave people behind. Let's get on board. Let's use the football as our common goal, So I expect and I love those conversations, and we do have them.
I'm sure you do. I want to talk to you about kit for some reason. I just want to talk to you about kit. So is the famous red and black kit. Is there a reasoning behind the colour? I'm just always intrigued about football kits. So any reason behind the colour at all?
I know that the kit was originally green, or I heard that the kit was originally green. I'm talking like 1885, when like back in the days. And I read something like it was meant to be representing the South Downs. So we're in kind of like a national park here in Lewes. So we're really lucky because the ground is like this, and then it's surrounded by like white cliffs and like the downs. So it's very, very green. I heard that it was originally green. I don't know why it switched to red and black, but the cool thing about our kit, so that kit was the one from 2017.
Yeah.
We've shifted now, and actually this season we designed our own kind of bespoke kits with Kappa, our kit sponsor. Oh. So like they're unique to us, which is super, super cool. But also we made the top 20 kits in the country. So we're in the something run by the National Football Museum. They selected our away kit, which is really, really cool, as one of the top 20 kits in the country. So yeah, it's a good Christmas present, guys. It's a good Christmas present. Get online.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, Maggie.
While we're talking about accolades, there was a book just come out about 100 best British grounds to visit, and guess what was number one, Clinton?
Number one.
Guess what was number one?
Okay.
So you have to calm down.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
It was on the dripping pan. It was the dripping pan. But it's a really good book, by the way. It's like this guy visited all these grounds and got all fans from away teams to like vote. And the quote that went with the dripping pan from an away supporter it's the only place that I can eat hummus in the terraces and not be laughed at.
I knew it. I knew it had something to do with food. I was going to go with Prosecco. But
can I just say, we've also got traditional pies and mash and peas and chips as well. It's not all about hummus. I just want to make that clear. It's just that we got picked up on that.
Also, Clinton, like, we think that the Prosecco gets drunk at the women's games, but actually I've seen it being drunk a lot at the men's games with like guys that are kind of like, oh, I'm just going to try this Prosecco thing out. Yeah, it gets drunk.
Yeah, I'm sure it does get drunk. Trust me. They might think around the corner and say, oh, I just spilt it, when really full well they just downed it all in one.
Exactly.
For sure.
Exactly.
So coming out of this lockdown period, thank God, like what's the plan for the future? What does the future hold for Lewes FC?
Well,
apart from world domination, right?
Apart from world domination, I know Carrie's 5-year plan.
That's the 5-year plan.
We've got, let's say 10-year plan. Let's be realistic. I think that one of the things we want to do is get more owners, right? So we want to become the most owned club in the world. At the moment, we're on 1,600 owners, and Barcelona's on 150,000. So we got some way to go. Okay, but that's kind of our aim. We feel like that would make us financially sustainable. And as we get the money in, the revenues in, and move up the league, we have a better platform for our campaigning messages. And absolutely, once we say our women get into the Super League, currently in the Championship, we've got a massive platform to say that gender equality works. So that's where we want to be in the years to come. And coming out of lockdown, I think we just really want to get that spirit back at the Dripping Pan with all those fans chanting our rooks. We called the rooks, all our rooks songs about "We will rook you," "Who let the rooks out," "Rooks upside your head." We want to get that all back on the terraces and really live up to our name. Because the fun was palpable last season, and it's been lonely.
Have you ever thought about releasing an album with all those songs? No?
I'm not. I don't know whether it would get sold. I mean, we sell weirder stuff in the club shop, so it's very possible. Yeah.
Put it on some streaming platforms, and you never know, it could be a #1 hit. "We Will Rook You." What was the other one as well?
Yeah, well, "Let the Rooks Out" is like done in 2 sections of the crowd. So one section say, "Who let the rooks out?" and the other section say, "Who, right? Yeah, you thought I went it. I did it. I went there.
I didn't think you were going to go there. I'm not going to lie, Karen. I didn't think you were going to go there, but I'm glad you did. I'm glad you went
there. No.
I'm sorry, Karen. I let you down. I should have been like, who. Damn it.
You missed your turn. You missed it. Wait. I mean, what about from you, your side of things, Maggie? Any plans for the future?
Yeah, two big things. Our women's team are looking really good at the moment, and really excited about the second half of the season and pushing on and continuing to professionalize. Our hope is that at some point we can go full time as well, because we're a part-time club. Mm-hmm. That's where we're aiming for, and just bringing in the sponsors to allow us to do that is a real big thing at the moment. So really pushing hard on that. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about is totally revamping our pathway system. So like the young girls that are coming through, I want to do something really, really special and unique, which is really change the incentives around school and football. So I'm trying to figure out if at Lewes, what we can do is set up this really great system where girls that kind of get incentives to work hard at school because they'll be part of our pathway, but vice versa, if they play well and if they work hard on the pitch, we will find them academic incentives. So whether that's special kind of leadership programs or getting interviews at university that they might choose to go to. So we're basically trying to find out a way where we can incentivize girls staying in school and doing really well and football, because ultimately women's football is still fragile, and there's no girl in the world at the moment that can bank on having a career forever in football. And so we're just we don't want to do the things like, so men's football has a bit of a problem with academies where there's kind of like a bit of a farm system where lots of boys go through and then they all come out with the same qualification, like a BTEC in sport and tourism or something like that. Like everyone has it.
Yeah.
And
I've got one.
I think, were you in an academy?
No, I wasn't even in the academy, but I still got beat. You didn't literally just model my childhood, my going through as a student. But yeah, got beat.
But you see what I mean? Like it's kind of like, it's almost like we think that all boys are the same, so we'll just put them through the same thing. And what I want to do is like, I'm learning from that, and I'm going, okay, well, I know that girls are really, really different. Like when I was at school, I was pretty academic, right? But I still love football, and I was still good at football. But I kind of almost had to choose. It was like, you're going to be academic or you're going to play, and there was no. And I want to get rid of that and just be like, you do you, and whatever it is, we will support you as a person, not just as a player. So yeah, at the moment we're trying to totally revamp our pathway system, work with schools, work with universities, and work with businesses that will offer them graduate placements. And yeah, just that's the vision. And I just have to like get the meat on the bones. And basically we want to be the best. Obviously we want to be exemplary. We want to be exemplary in everything we do, but I'd love us to have like the best, most holistic pathway where girls know that they'll be treated well if they come to Lewes. On and off the pitch. That's the vision.
Awesome. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, girls, ladies, sorry for your time. Really appreciate it. Ben educated me. It's Lewes FC, not Lose. I will never say that again. But yeah, thank you very much for that, and all the best for the weekend as well. Fingers crossed you get a result that you really desire.